what the Bible says. The following scriptures are from Job 31 through 42. I dedicated a covenant, an agreement to my eyes. How then could I look lustfully upon a girl? For what portion should I have from God above if I were lewd? And what heritage from the Almighty on high? Does not calamity justly befall the unrighteous, and disaster the workers of iniquity? Does not God see my ways and count all my steps? If I have walked with falsehood or vanity, or if my foot has hastened to deceit, O let me be weighed in a just balance, and let him weigh me, that God may know my integrity. If my step has turned out of God's way, and my heart has gone the way my eyes covetously invited, and if any spot has stained my hands with guilt, then let me sow, and let another eat. Yes, let the produce of my fields or my offspring be rooted out. If my heart has been deceived, and I made a fool by a woman, or if I have covetously laid wait at my neighbor's door until his departure, then let my wife grind meal like a bondslave for another, and let others bow down upon her. For adultery is a heinous and chief crime, and iniquity to demand action by the judges and punishment. For uncontrolled passion is a fire which consumes to Abaddon, to destruction, ruin, and the place of final torment. That fire once lighted would rage until all is consumed, and would burn to the root all my life's increase. If I have despised and rejected the cause of my manservant or my maidservant, when they contended or brought a complaint against me, what then shall I do when God rises up to judge? When he visits to inquire of me, what shall I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make my servant? And did not one of us both in the womb? And did not one fashion us both in the womb? If I have withheld from the poor and needy what they desired, or have caused the eyes of the widow to look in vain for relief, or have eaten my morsel alone, and have not shared it with the fatherless. No, but from my youth the fatherless grew up with me as a father, and I have been the widow's guide from my mother's womb. If I have seen anyone perish for want of clothing, or any poor person without covering, if his loins have not blessed me for clothing them, and if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have lifted my hand against the fatherless when I saw that the judges would be favorable and be my help at the council gate, then let my shoulder fall away from my shoulder blade, and my arm be broken from its socket. For calamity from God was a terror to me, and because of his majesty I could not endure to face him, and could do nothing. If I have made gold my trust and hope, or have said to find gold, you are my confidence, if I rejoice because my wealth was great, and because my powerful hand alone had gotten much, if I beheld as an object of worship the sunlight when it shone, or the moon walking in its brightness, and my heart has been secretly enticed by them, or my mouth has kissed my hand in homage to them, this also would have been a heinous and principal iniquity to demand the judge's action and punishment. For I would have denied and been false to the God who is above, if I rejoiced at the destruction of him who hated me, and lifted myself up in malicious triumph when evil overtook him. No, I have let my mouth sin, neither by cursing my enemy, nor by praying that he might die. Just ask if the men of my tent will not say, who can find one in need who has not been satisfied with food he gave them? The temporary resident has not lodged in the street, but I have opened my door to the wayfaring man. If, like Adam, or like other men, I have concealed my transgressions by hiding my iniquity in my bosom, because I feared the great multitude, and the contempt of families terrified me so that I kept silence and did not go out of the door. O for a hearing! O for an answer from the Almighty! Let my adversary write out his indictment, and put his vague accusations in tangible form in a book. Surely I would proudly bear it on my shoulder, and wind the scroll about my head as a diadem. I would count out to him the number of my steps with every detail of my life, approaching his presence as a prince. For if my land has cried out against me, and its furrows have complained together with tears, that I have no right to them. If I have eaten its fruits without paying for them, or have caused its rightful owners to breathe their last, let thistles grow instead of wheat, and cockleburs instead of barley. The controversial words of Job with his friends are ended. So these three men ceased to answer Job, because he was rigidly righteous, upright, and in right standing with God, in his own eyes. But there was a fifth man there also, Elihu, son of Barachel, the Buzite, of the family of Ram, became indignant. His indignation was kindled against Job because he justified himself rather than God, even made himself out to be better than God. Also, against Job's three friends was Elihu's anger kindled, because they had found no answer, were unable to show his real error, and yet they had declared him to be in the wrong and responsible for his own afflictions. Now Elihu had waited to speak to Job, because the others were older than he. But when Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouths of these three men, he became angry. Then Elihu, son of Barachel, the Buzite, said, I am young, and you are aged. For that reason I was timid and restrained, and dared not declare my opinion to you. I said, age should speak, and a multitude of years should teach wisdom, so let it be heard. But there is a vital force, a spirit of intelligence in man, and the breath of the Almighty gives men understanding. It is not the great necessarily who are wise, nor always the aged who understand justice. So I say, listen to me. I also will give you my opinion about Job's situation and my knowledge. You see, I waited for your words. I listened to your wise reasons while you searched out what to say. Yes, I paid attention to what you said, and behold, not one of you convinced Job or made satisfactory replies to his words. You could not refute him. Beware lest you say, we have found wisdom. God thrusts Job down justly, not man. God alone is dealing with him. Now Job has not directed his words against me, therefore I have no cause for irritation, neither will I answer him with speeches like yours. I speak for truth, not for revenge. Job's friends are amazed and embarrassed. They answer no more. They have not a thing to say, reports Elihu. And shall I wait because they say nothing but stand still and answer no more? I also will answer my God-assigned part. I also will declare my opinion and my knowledge, for I am full of words. The spirit within me constrains me. My breast is as wine that has no vent. Like new wineskins, it is ready to burst. I must speak, that I may get relief and be refreshed. I will open my lips and answer. I will not, I warn you, be influenced by respect for any man's person and show partiality. Neither will I flatter any man, for I know not how to flatter, wasting my time in mere formalities, for then my Maker would soon take me away. Be that as it may, Job, I beg of you to hear what I have to say, and give heed to all my words. Behold, here I am with open mouth. Here is my tongue talking. My word shall express the uprightness of my heart, and my lips shall speak what they know with utter sincerity. It is the Spirit of God that made me, which has stirred me up, and the breath of the Almighty that gives me life, which inspires me. Answer me now if you can. Set your words in order before me. Take your stand. Behold, I am toward God, and before him, even as you are, I also am, formed out of the clay, though I speak with abnormal wisdom because of a divine illumination. See my terror, for I am only a fellow mortal, not God. I shall not make you afraid, neither shall my pressure be heavy upon you. Surely you have spoken in my hearing, and I have heard the voice of your words, saying, I am clean, without transgression. I am innocent, neither is there iniquity in me. But behold, God finds occasions against me and causes of alienation and indifference. He counts me as his enemy. He puts my feet in the stocks. He untrustingly watches all my paths, you say. I reply to you, behold, in this you are not just. God is superior to man. Why do you contend against him? For he does not give account of any of his actions. Sufficient for us it should be to know that it is he who does them. For God does reveal his will. He speaks not only once, but more than once, even though men do not regard it, including you, Job. One may hear God's voice in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on men while slumbering upon the bed. Then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction, terrifying them with warnings, that he may withdraw man from his purpose and cut off pride from him, disgusting him with his disappointing self-sufficiency. He holds him back from the pit of destruction, and his life from perishing by the sword of God's destructive judgments. God's voice may be heard by man when he is chastened with pain upon his bed and with continual strife in his bones, or while all his bones are firmly set, so that his desire makes him loathe food, and even dainty dishes nauseate him. His flesh is so wasted away that it cannot be seen, and his bones that were not seen stick out. Yes, his soul draws near to corruption, and his life to the inflictors of death, the destroyers. God's voice may be heard if there is for the hearer a messenger or an angel, an interpreter, one among 1,000 to show to man what is right for him, how to be upright and in right standing with God. Then God is gracious to him and says, deliver him from going down into the pit of destruction. I have found a ransom, a price of redemption, an atonement. Then the man's flesh shall be restored. It becomes fresher and more tender than a child's. He returns to the days of his youth. He prays to God, and he is favorable to him, so that he sees his face with joy. For God restores to him his righteousness, his uprightness and right standing with God, with its joys. He looks upon other men, or sings out to them, I have sinned and perverted that which was right, and it did not profit me. Or he did not requite me according to my iniquity. God has redeemed my life from going down to the pit of destruction, and my life shall see the light. Elihu comments, behold, God does all these things twice, yes, 3 times with a man, to bring back his life from the pit of destruction, that he may be enlightened with the light of the living. Give heed, O Job. Listen to me. Hold your peace, and I will speak. If you have anything to say, answer me. Speak, for I desire to justify you. If you do not have anything to say, listen to me. Hold your peace, and I will teach you wisdom. Elihu answered, continued his discourse, and said, hear my words, you wise men, and give ear to me, you who have so much knowledge. For the ear tries words as the palate tastes food. Let us choose for ourselves that which is right. Let us know among ourselves what is good. For Job has said, I am innocent and uncompromisingly righteous, but God has taken away my right. Would I lie against my right? Yet, notwithstanding my right, I am counted a liar. My wound is incurable, though I am without transgression. What man is like Job, who drinks up scoffing and scorning like water? Who goes in company with the worker of iniquity and walks with wicked men? For he has said, it profits a man nothing that he should delight himself with God and consent to him. Therefore hear me, you men of understanding. Far be it from God that he should do wickedness, and far from the Almighty that he should commit iniquity. For according to the deeds of a man, God will exactly proportion his pay, and he will cause every man to find recompense according to his ways. Truly God will not do wickedly, neither will the Almighty pervert justice. Who put God in charge over the earth, or who laid on him the whole world? If God should set his heart upon him, man, and withdraw his life-giving spirit and his breath from man to himself, all flesh would perish together, and man would turn again to dust. If now you have understanding, hear this. Listen to my words. Is it possible that an enemy of right should govern? And will you condemn him who is just and mighty? God, who says to a king, you are worthless and vile, or to princes and nobles, you are ungodly and evil. God is not partial to princes, nor does he regard the rich more than the poor, for they all are the work of his hands. In a moment they die. Even at midnight the people are shaken and pass away, and the mighty are taken away by no human hand. For God's eyes are upon the ways of a man, and he sees all his steps. There is no darkness nor thick gloom where the evildoers may hide themselves. God sets before man no appointed time, that he should appear before him in judgment. He breaks in pieces mighty men without inquiry before a jury, and in ways past finding out, and sets others in their stead. Therefore, he takes knowledge of their works, and he overturns them in the night, so that they are crushed and destroyed. God strikes them down as wicked men in the open sight of beholders, because they turned aside from him and would not consider or show regard for any of his ways, so that they caused the cry of the poor to come to him, and he heard the cry of the afflicted. When he gives quietness, peace, and security from oppression, who then can condemn? When he hides his face, withdrawing his favor and help, who then can behold him and make him gracious, whether it be a nation or a man by himself? That the godless man may not reign, that there be no one to ensnare the people. For has anyone said to God, I have borne my chastisement, I will not offend any more? Teach me what I do not see, in regard to how I have sinned. If I have done iniquity, I will do it no more. Should God's recompense for your sins be as you will it, when you refuse to accept it? For you must do the choosing, and not I. Therefore, say what is your truthful conclusion. Men of understanding will tell me, indeed, every wise man who hears me will agree, that Job speaks without knowledge, and his words are without wisdom and insight. Would that Job's afflictions be continued, and he be tried to the end because of his answering like wicked men. For he adds rebellion in his submissive, defiant attitude toward God to his unacknowledged sin. He claps his hands in open mockery and contempt of God among us, and he multiplies his words of accusation against God. Elihu spoke further to Job and said, Do you think this is your right? Or are you saying my righteousness is more than God's, that you ask, what advantage have you? How am I profited more than if I had sinned? I will answer you and your companions with you. Look to the heavens and see, and behold the skies which are higher than you. If you have sinned, How does that affect God? And if your transgressions are multiplied, what have you done to him? If you are righteous, what do you by that give God? Or what does he receive from your hand? Your wickedness touches and affects a man such as you are, and your righteousness is for yourself, one of the human race, but it cannot touch God, who is above such influence. Because of the multitudes of oppressions, the people cry out. They cry for help because of the violence of the mighty. But no one says, "Where is God my Maker, who gives songs of rejoicing in the night, who teaches us more than the beasts of the earth, and makes us wiser than the birds of the heavens?" The people cry out because of the pride of evil men, but he does not answer. Surely God will refuse to answer the cry, which is vanity, vain and empty, instead of abiding trust. Neither will the Almighty regard it. How much less, when missing his righteous judgment on earth, you say that you do not see him, that your cause is before him, and you are waiting for him. But now, because God has not speedily punished in his anger, and seems to be unaware of the wrong and oppression of which a person is guilty, Job uselessly opens his mouth and multiplies words without knowledge, drawing the worthless conclusion that the righteous have no more advantage than the wicked. Elihu proceeded and said, "Bear with me and wait a little longer, and I will show you, for I have something still to say on God's behalf. I will bring my knowledge from afar, and will ascribe righteousness to my Maker. For truly my words shall not be false. He who is perfect in knowledge is with you. Behold, God is mighty, and yet despises no one, nor regards anything as trivial. He is mighty in power of understanding and heart. He does not prolong the life of the wicked, but gives the needy and afflicted their right. He withdraws not his eyes from the righteous, the upright and right standing with God, but he sets them forever with kings upon the throne, and they are exalted. And if they are bound in fetters of adversity, and held by cords of affliction, then he shows to them the true character of their deeds and their transgressions, that they have acted arrogantly, with presumption and self-sufficiency. He also opens their ears to instruction and discipline, and commands that they return from iniquity. If they obey and serve him, they shall spend their days in prosperity, and their years in pleasantness and joy. But if they obey not, they shall perish by the sword of God's destructive judgments, and they shall die in ignorance of true knowledge. But the godless and profane in heart heap up anger at the divine discipline. They do not cry to him when he binds them with cords of affliction. They die in youth, and their life perishes among the unclean, those who are sodomites. He delivers the afflicted in their affliction, and opens their ears to his voice in adversity. Indeed, God would have allured you out of the mouth of distress into a broad place where there is no situation or perplexity or privation, and that which would be set on your table would be full of fatness. But if you, Job, are filled with the judgment of the wicked, judgment and justice will keep hold on you. For let not wrath entice you into scorning chastisements, and let not the greatness of the ransom, the suffering, if rightly endured, turn you aside. Will your cry be sufficient to keep you from distress, or will all the force of your strength do it? Desire not the night. When peoples are cut off from their places, take heed, turn not to iniquity. For this, the iniquity of complaining against God, you have chosen, rather than submission in affliction. Behold, God exalts and does loftily in his power. Who is a ruler or a teacher like him? Who has appointed God his way? Or who can say, you have done unrighteousness? Remember that, by submission, you magnify God's work, of which men have sung. All men have looked upon God's work. Man may behold it afar off. Behold, God is great, and we know him not. The number of his years is unsearchable, for he draws up the drops of water, which distill as rain from his vapor, which the skies pour down and drop abundantly upon the multitudes of mankind. Not only that, but can anyone understand the spreadings of the clouds or the thunderings of his pavilion? Behold, he spreads his lightning against the dark clouds and covers the roots of the sea. For by his clouds God executes judgment upon the peoples. He gives food in abundance. He covers his hands with the lightning and commands it to strike the mark. His thunderings speak awesomely concerning him. The cattle are told of his coming storm. Indeed, at his thunderings my heart also trembles and leaps out of its place. Hear, O hear the roar of his voice, and the sound of rumbling that goes out of his mouth. Under the whole heaven he lets it loose, and his lightning to the ends of the earth. After it his voice roars. He thunders with the voice of his majesty, and he restrains not his lightnings against his adversaries. When his voice is heard, God thunders marvelously with his voice. He does great things which we cannot comprehend. For he says to the snow, fall on the earth. Likewise, he speaks to the showers and to the downpour of his mighty rains. God seals up, stops, brings to a standstill by severe weather the hand of every man. And now under his seal their hands are forced to inactivity, that all men whom he has made may know his doings, his sovereign power, and their subjection to it. Then the beasts go into dens and remain in their lairs. Out of its chamber comes the whirlwind, and cold from the scattering winds. By the breath of God ice is given, and the breadth of the waters is frozen over. He loads the thick cloud with moisture. He scatters the cloud of his lightning, and it is turned about by his guidance, that they may do whatever he commands them upon the face of the habitable earth, whether it be for correction or for his earth generally, or for his mercy and loving kindness, he causes it to come. Hear this, O Job. Stand still and consider the wondrous works of God. Do you know how God lays his command upon them and causes the lightning of his storm cloud to shine? Do you know how the clouds are balanced and poised in the heavens, the wonderful works of him who is perfect in knowledge? Or why your garments are hot when he quiets the earth in sultry summer with the oppressive south wind? Can you, along with him, spread out the sky, which is strong as a molten mirror? Tell us, Job, with what words of man we may address such a being. We cannot state our case because we are in the dark, in the presence of the unsearchable God. So shall it be told him that I wish to speak. If a man speaks, shall he be swallowed up? And now men cannot look upon the light when it is bright in the skies, when the wind has passed and cleared them. Golden brightness and splendor come out of the north. If men can scarcely look upon it, how much less upon the terrible splendor and majesty God has upon himself. Touching the Almighty, we cannot find him out. He is excellent in power, and to justice and plenteous righteousness he does no violence. He will disregard no right. Men therefore reverently fear him. He regards and respects not any who are wise in heart, in their own understanding and conceit. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now your loins like a man, and I will demand of you, and you declare to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Declare to me if you have and know understanding. Who determined the measures of the earth, if you know? Or who stretched the measuring line upon it? Upon what were the foundations of it fastened? Or who laid its cornerstone? when the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut up the sea with doors when it broke forth and issued out the womb? When I made the clouds the garment of it, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it, and marked for it my appointed boundary, and set bars and doors, and said, Thus far shall you come, and no farther, and here shall your proud waves be stayed. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, so that light may get hold of the corners of the earth, and shake the wickedness of night out of it? It is changed like clay, into which a seal is pressed, and things stand out like a many-colored garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and their uplifted arm is broken. Have you explored the springs of the sea? Or have you walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the doors of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the breadth of the earth? Tell me if you know it all. Where is the way where light dwells? And as for darkness, where is its abode? That you may conduct it to its home, and may know the path to its house. You must know since you were born then, or because you are so extremely old. Have you entered the treasuries of the snow, or have you seen the treasuries of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war? By what way is the light distributed, or the east wind spread over the earth? Who has prepared a channel for the torrents of rain, or a path for the thunderbolt, to cause it to rain on the uninhabited land, and on the desert where no man lives, to satisfy the waste and desolate ground, and to cause the tender grass to spring forth? Has the rain a father? Or who has begotten the drops of dew? Out of whose womb came the ice, and the hoary frost of heaven? Who has given it birth? The waters are congealed like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains of the cluster of stars called Pleiades, or loose the cords of the constellation Orion? Can you lead forth the signs of the zodiac in their season, or can you guide the stars of the bear with her young? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you establish their rule upon the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds so that an abundance of waters may cover you? Can you send lightnings that they may go and say to you, Here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or in the dark clouds? Or who has given understanding to the mind, or to the meteor? Who can number the clouds by wisdom? Or who can pour out the water bottles of the heavens? When heat has caused the dust to run into a mass, and the clods to cleave fast together, can you, Job, hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions? When they couch in their dens, or lie in wait in their hiding place, who provides for the raven its prey when its young ones cry to God and wander about for lack of food? Do you know the time when the wild goats of the rock bring forth their young? Or do you observe when the hinds are given birth? Do you attend to all this, Job? Can you number the months that they carry their offspring? Or do you know the time when they are delivered? When they bow themselves, bring forth their young ones, and cast out their pains. Their young ones become strong. They grow up in the open field. They go forth and return not to them. Who has sent out the wild donkey, giving him his freedom? Or who has loosed the bands of the swift donkey, by which his tame brother is bound? He, the shy, the swift-footed, and the untamable, whose home I have made the wilderness, and the salt land his dwelling place. He scorns the tumult of the city and hears not the shoutings of the taskmaster. The range of the mountains is his pasture, and he searches after every green thing. Will the wild ox be willing to serve you, or remain beside your manger? Can you bind the wild ox with a harness to the plow in the furrow? Or will he harrow the furrows for you? Will you trust him because his strength is great? Or to him will you leave your labor? Will you depend upon him to bring home your seed and gather the grain of your threshing floor? Who, Job, was the author of this strange variance in the disposition of animals so alike in appearance? Was it you? The wings of the ostrich wave proudly, but are they pinions and plumage of love? The ostrich leaves her eggs on the ground and warms them in the dust, forgetting that a foot may crush them, or that the wild beast may trample them. She is hardened against her young ones, as though they were not hers. Her labor is in vain because she has no sense of danger for her unborn brood. For God has deprived her of wisdom, neither has he imparted to her understanding. Yet when she lifts herself up in flight, so swift is she, that she can laugh to scorn the horse and his rider. Have you given the horse his might? Have you clothed his neck with quivering and a shaking mane? Was it you, Job, who made him to leap like a locust? The majesty of his snorting nostrils is terrible. He paws in the valley and exalts in his strength. He goes out to meet the weapons of armed men. He mocks at fear and is not dismayed or terrified. Neither does he turn back in battle from the sword. The quiver rattles upon him, as do the glittering spear and the lance of his rider. He seems in running to devour the ground with fierceness and rage. Neither can he stand still at the sound of the war trumpet. As often as the trumpet sounds, he says, "Ha! Ha!" And he smells the battle from afar, the thunder of the captains and the shouting. Is it by your wisdom, Job, that the hawk soars and stretches her wings toward the south as winter approaches? Does the eagle mount up at your command and make his nest on a high, inaccessible place? On the cliff he dwells and remains securely upon the point of the rock and the stronghold. From there he spies out the prey, and his eyes see it afar off. His young ones suck up blood, and where the slain are, there is he. Moreover, the Lord said to Job, shall he who would find fault with the Almighty contend with him? He who disputes with God, let him answer it. Then Job replied to the Lord, behold, I am of small account and vile. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand upon my mouth. I have spoken once, but I will not reply again. Indeed, twice I have answered, but I will proceed no further. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind, saying, gird up your loins now like a man. I will demand of you, and you answer me. Will you also annul, set aside, and render void my judgment? Will you condemn me, your God, that you may appear righteous and justified? Have you an arm like God? Or can you thunder with a voice like his? Since you question the manner of the Almighty's rule, deck yourself now with the excellency and dignity of the supreme ruler, and yourself undertake the government of the world, if you are so wise, and array yourself with honor and majesty. Pour forth the overflowings of your anger, and look on everyone who is proud and abase him. Look on everyone who is proud and bring him low, and tread down the wicked where they stand, if you are so able, Job. Bury and hide them all in the dust together, and shut them up in the prison house of death. If you can do all this, Job, providing yourself a divine might, then will I, God, praise you also, and acknowledge that your own right hand can save you. Behold now the behemoth, the hippopotamus, which I created as I did you. He eats grass like an ox. See now, his strength is in his loins, and his power is in the sinews of his belly. He moves his tail like a cedar tree. The tendons of his thighs are twisted together like a rope. His bones are like tubes of bronze. His limbs or ribs are like bars of iron. The hippopotamus is the first in magnitude and power of the works of God in animal life. Only he who made him provides him with his sword-like tusks, or only God who made him can bring near his sword to master him. Surely the mountains bring him food, where all the wild animals play. He lies under the lotus trees, in the covert of the reeds in the marsh. The lotus trees cover him with their shade. The willows of the brook compass him about. Behold, if a river is violent and overflows, he does not tremble. He is confident, though the Jordan River swells and rushes against his mouth. Can any take him when he is on the watch, or pierce through his nose with a snare? Can you draw out the Leviathan, the crocodile, from a fish hook, or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope into his nose, or pierce his jaw through with a hook or a spike? Will he make many supplications to you, begging to be spared? Will he speak soft words to you, to coax you to treat him kindly? Will he make a covenant with you, to take him for your servant forever? Will you play with the crocodile as with a bird, or will you put him on a leash for your maidens? Will traders bargain over him? Will they divide him up among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons, or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hand upon him. Remember your battle with him. You will not do such an ill-advised thing again. Behold, the hope of his assailant is disappointed. One is cast down even at the sight of him. No one is so fierce and foolhardy that he dares to stir up the crocodile. Who then is he who can stand before me, the beast's creator, who dares to contend with me? Who has first given to me that I should repay him? Whatever is under the whole heavens is mine. Therefore, who can have a claim against God? God who made the unmastered crocodile. I will not keep silence concerning his limbs, nor his mighty strength, nor his goodly frame. Who can strip off the crocodile's outer garment? Who can penetrate his double coat of mail? Who shall come within his jaws? Who can open the doors of his lipless mouth? His extended jaws and bare teeth are terrible round about. His scales are the crocodile's pride, for his back is made of rows of shields, shut up together as with a tight seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together so that they cannot be separated. His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the reddish eyelids of the dawn. Out of his mouth go burning torches, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goes forth smoke, as out of a seething pot over a fire of rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes forth from his mouth. In the crocodile's neck abides strength, and terror dances before him. The folds of his flesh cleave together. They are firm upon him, and they cannot shake. When he moves, his heart is as firm as a stone, indeed, as solid as a nether millstone. When the crocodile raises himself up, the mighty are afraid because of terror and the crashing. They are beside themselves. Even if one strikes at him with the sword, it cannot get any hold, nor does the spear, the dart, or the javelin. He counts iron as straw and bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make the crocodile flee. Sling stones are treated by him as stubble. Clubs also are counted as stubble. He laughs at the rushing and the rattling of the javelin. His underparts are like sharp pieces of broken pottery. He spreads grooves like a threshing sledge upon the mire. He makes the deep boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a foaming pot of ointment. His swift darting makes a shining track behind him. One would think the deep to the hoary with foam. Upon earth there is not the crocodile's equal, a creature made without fear, and he behaves fearlessly. He looks almighty beast of prey in the face without terror. He is monarch over all the sons of pride. And now, Job, who are you who dares not arouse the unmastered crocodile, yet who dares resist me, the beast creator, to my face? Everything under the heavens is mine. Therefore, who can have a claim against God? Then Job said to the Lord, I know that you can do all things, and that no thought or purpose of yours can be restrained or thwarted. You said to me, who is this that darkens and obscures counsel by words without knowledge? Therefore I now see. I have rashly uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me which I did not know. I had virtually said to you what you have said to me. Hear, I beseech you, and I will speak. I will demand of you, and you declare to me. I had heard of you only by the hearing of the ear, but now my spiritual eye sees you. Therefore I loathe my words and abhor myself and repent in dust and ashes. After the Lord had spoken the previous words to Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my wrath is kindled against you, and against your two friends, for you have not spoken of me the thing that is right, as my servant Job has. Now therefore, take 7 bullocks and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering. And my servant Job shall pray for you, for I will accept his prayer, that I deal not with you after your folly, and that you have not spoken of me the thing that is right, as my servant Job has. So Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite went and did as the Lord commanded them, and the Lord accepted Job's prayer. And the Lord turned the captivity of Job and restored his fortunes when he prayed for his friends. Also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Then there came to him all his brothers and sisters, and all who had known him before, and they ate bread with him in his house, and they sympathized with him and comforted him over all the distressing calamities that the Lord had brought upon him. Every man also gave him a piece of money, and every man an earring of gold. And the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He had also 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he called the name of the first Jemimah, and the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Karen Hapuk. And in all the land there were no women so fair as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them inheritance among their brothers. After this Job lived 140 years, and saw his sons and his sons' sons, even to 4 generations. So Job died, an old man and full of days.